Hi, my name's Lexie.
With one word, can you describe the state of the world right now?
One word, transitioning. I feel like there's a trickle down from transitioning. There's so many other things that come from that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just transitions altogether. Just transitions in mindset and politics and climate. Like actual climate and not like a figurative like climate, like the actual world, our Earth.
What challenges have you faced this year?
I guess navigating the healthcare world in the middle of a pandemic. It's been tricky trying to see doctors or figure out what's like, I guess what's big enough to take to the doctor and what's enough to take care of at home. It's just kind of different, you know. You're used to just kind of getting up and going when you feel like it, and now it's kind of like you have to think, all right, is that important enough to leave for? Is that important enough to schedule an appointment for? Like, do I want to take the cab? Do I want to take the train? Do I want to do all those things? I think this year it's been tricky, but I feel like I've got some thick skin. I've been through worse. This has been a shit year, but it hasn't been the worst yet for me, I guess, which is not saying too much about my life. Well, in New York, they suspended all non-emergency procedures earlier in the pandemic. In March, I was having some issues with some fevers, which was really the most unfortunate side effect that I could start having this year. And my fevers were non-COVID related, but when I had arrived to this facility in Long Island, they weren't treating COVID patients. So when I arrived and I had a fever, I was turned away at the door, which was such a shit show because I was actually there for a biopsy, and I couldn't get my biopsy for months after that because I managed to just miss that window before they cut off all non-emergency procedures, even though I would qualify my biopsy as an emergency procedure personally. But that's been annoying because in the beginning of the pandemic, they were doing that more often. Right now, they're not doing that as often. They screen you at the door, but I don't think they're turning away as many people just because they have a certain like symptom. Because I could walk up to any of these doors, like for any of these doctors, and I can check off literally every single symptom. And technically, I don't have anything related to COVID. It's just like lupus issues are kind of similar, but also like COVID symptoms are extremely vague, and like COVID symptoms can range from like cancer symptoms to like a common cold. Like it could be nothing or it could be crazy. So it's weird. But other than that, getting doctor's appointments has been pretty wild. The wait is pretty crazy. It's like 2 weeks, 3 weeks sometimes, like to get an appointment, just because there was a long period of time where people weren't going out as often, and now people are all kind of like bum rushing all their doctors at the same time. So that's the tricky part. Getting my medication was fun at one point too, because I was on hydrochloroquine already for the last 2 years, and the price of my medication went up during this whole pandemic, which actually caused me to call my doctor and just ask her if she could switch me off of it, because one, I wasn't interested in paying, $60 more on my medication. That wasn't really doing anything for me because I was still having fevers and I was still flaring up from my lupus problems. So I just decided to switch off of it, and I ended up getting a different medication, but the price went up so much more. I just couldn't even believe it just because of what was going on. Like, I guess, I don't know, because they were using it to try and treat COVID. I don't know if that's working at all. That doesn't really make much sense to me, but I'm also not a doctor, so I could be very wrong. I feel like my COVID experience being sick has been pretty laid back and lucky so far because I work from home, so I don't have to worry too much. I haven't been very immunocompromised. I can't speak for right now though because I'm on a little bit more medication, but earlier I was fine. I feel like I was fine. Aside from dealing with like my issues, I wasn't very immunocompromised, and that's like the concern for like people like me, is that we don't have a functioning immune system. So going out any other year, I'm already a magnet, let alone when there's something kind of more prevalent going on.
Reflecting, how do you think you've grown from these challenges you faced this year?
I think how I've grown from these challenges, I don't know. I just take better care of myself. I always have, but this year just forced me to be a little more attentive, a little more forgiving, like of my own self, my own body, like just letting certain things happen, like just feeling sick and just being sick and that being okay. I feel like in the previous years, it was like a guilt thing, like not wanting to like burden people or not wanting to like burden work or anything. And this year was different because I got to work from home and I got to be sick in my own like comfort, you know, like not having to force myself. So I just feel like this year more than anything else, I learned how to just be sick when I need to be sick and relax when I have to.
If you are hopeful, what are you most hopeful for in the new year, 2021?
Hopeful for the opportunity to go to Disneyland and potentially hug a Disney princess without a mask on. That's what I'm hopeful for.
You're so fire, sorry.
No, I'm serious. Like, what else is there to be? Like, everything else that, like, I'm excited for, like, things I've experienced before, things that, like, I know will eventually come back, you know. I know eventually we'll be able to, like, you know, be outside together and, like, enjoying things. But, like, come on, I want to hug, like, a fucking stranger. Like, I want to hug a Disney princess, like, somebody whose sole job is just to be, like, the proprietor of happiness in a park. Like, that's all I want.